All right, what up? Today I'll be explaining the importance and power of the Fool archetype, the unique power of the Joker, Jester, Trickster, Magician, Fool archetype, right? Some themes which I'm gonna mention and how this video is gonna be structured is based on me explaining the Fool archetype through the Tarot, explaining its alchemical power and ability to transform and transmute things. I'll mention DMT and how the Fool archetype or the Jester is ingrained in the collective unconscious, right? Which means that it is going to often pop up in psychedelic experiences. I'll talk about the Fool's connection to the King and the secret power which the Fool Jester archetype holds within society and how he is able to operate that power. I'll talk about Carl Jung and the healing benefits of embracing that archetype into your own psyche and gaining a deeper understanding of it and how to use it. Also, yeah, more on the secret power, kind of the hidden knowledge which the Fool has, his sadness, and a theme of misunderstanding which he must carry within himself. Then my own understanding of the Fool archetype, as well as some personal stories of the Fool archetype where I can kind of feel that I embrace that for myself, giving me a deeper insight into the personality, psychology of this persona, right? So let's start. If a man would persist in his folly, he would become wise. That is a quote by William Blake. That basically means that if you follow through on your ideas and delusions to the extreme, they are going to eventually manifest, which plays into the power which the Fool archetype has. Now, a lot of what I'm talking about in this video comes from this book. It's called Tarot and the Archetypal Journey, the Jungian Path from Darkness to Light. And as we can see, the cover of this book is the Fool archetype. So yeah, if you want to get a deeper understanding of Tarot, this book is great. So a simple way of letting the Fool into your life is to honestly and freely admit your own foolishness. The healing benefits are that the energy which was previously used to defend one's own stupidity, creates blockages, and delays manifestation is now freed up for more creative use. It is a good thing to look into when your plans have not worked out and you are left hopelessly drifting. But the Fool reminds you that if you are lost and you do not know where you're going, then any way is the correct way, because it is going to lead you towards your destination, your desired goals. And it is like the cat from Alice in Wonderland. I don't remember the name, but it's also the quote that if you're lost, any way is the right way. Now let's start with the Tarot. The Fool is a very adored and overall deep and interesting persona because their spontaneous approach to life combines wisdom, bravery, intuition, madness, folly, and humor. When these ingredients are mixed in the correct proportion, the result may be miraculous, but if not, he may end up in a sticky mess. He can look very foolish, which he, as the Fool, does not mind all too much. He's known to wear donkey ears because he understands that to admit ignorance is the highest wisdom and necessary condition for all learning. It is when you admit yourself to some title as master or some expert, then you already have an ego, and your new learning is going to be viewed through that ego, right? Which you already have earned. But if you remain the Fool and remain kind of the student, you are open to receive and you are open to receiving knowledge and information, right? So this archetype tends to encompass many paradoxes. He strides forward yet looks back, thus connecting the wisdom of the future with the innocence of childhood. The unconscious and undirected energy seems to have a purpose of its own. This allows him to exist outside of space and time. The winds of prophecy inhibit his spirit. Considered the most powerful of all the Tarot trumps, no fixed number, free to travel anywhere at will, often upsetting the established order with his pranks. He encompasses the number zero, and the zero kind of adapts and becomes whatever it is exposed to, right? Similarly to the nine in numerology, but that kind of highlights the ability of the fool to transmute himself into whatever he may desire or is necessary at the current state. So, yeah, he can travel in hierarchy, he can travel within society, he can go from the farmers, the medieval, people at the bottom, lower class, to the middle class, to the upper class, to the aristocracy, to the king, to the people around the king, and then back to the people, right? That gives him a deeper understanding of everything going on in a particular circumstance, right? And just, right. So let's see. In Greece, it was believed that keeping a fool about the premises warded off the evil eye. Having a joker in a deck may serve a similar function, as tarot cards have been referred to as the devil's pictures, right? The fool personifies the central core of the psyche, the guiding force, which Jung has called the self. The fool pops up unexpectedly and disappears before we are able to catch him. He's dependent on stimulation, so he's attracted by places where action takes place, and if that is currently not the case, he creates it himself. If chaos is not found, he creates it himself, bending the universe according to his will, right? So that is one of the reasons why people so love the fool archetype, is because he creates something out of nothing. He simply takes the lack of chaos and creates something, yeah, as I mentioned, from nothing, making him like a box of mystery, making him like unexpected. And that is very attractive because you never know what is going to be in that box, right? His power comes from the fact that it's impossible to pin him down. The moment we have caught him or believe we have figured him out, he transforms into something completely different, leaving us at the beginning of trying to understand him, right? He may jump into your world, he may do something, teach you something, and then quickly disappear again, right? He disappears just as quickly as he appears, kind of underlining that dual nature. The dog appears to be warning him of impending danger. The fool has a strong connection to his intuitive side, which means that he does not need to look where he is going in the literal sense. He's guided by his instinctual, animalistic nature, which is why some decks have shown him as blindfolded, which emphasizes his ability to act and live by the insight of intuitive wisdom rather than the eyesight of conventional knowledge. He sacrifices the stimuli of outer senses so that he can contemplate life with the inward eye. In the Bible, many ancient cultures, religious texts, occult knowledge, they talk about the third eye, and that if you close your physical eyes, you have access to your inner eye, your third eye, or the pineal gland. I have a video about that. That's some very interesting stuff to get into. I think that is what it symbolizes. When your eyes are shut, you are excluded from that external stimulation, causing your psyche to go inward into the inner eye, the third eye, working the childlike imagination, the kind of fantasy world, right? And that creates magic in your life. So he has, not only does it create magic in your life, but anytime you are using your visualization, the power of your mind to visualize, see something, imagine, or what was it? Yeah, that sort of stuff. Then you activate the third eye because you are using the inner eye, the eye that is functioning based on intuition and kind of deeper wisdom rather than the logical ego type of straightforward thinking. So he has outgrown the need for human companionship, but doesn't mind the wordless companionship of his little dog. Right. Now that was the explanation behind the tarot. Let me now get into DMT. Now, Carl Jung has spoken of the collective unconscious and how there are certain archetypes which are ingrained into that collective unconscious, right? And that is something which is seen when people conduct psychoactive ingestion, right? When people do psychedelics such as LSD, mushrooms, high doses of, right, psilocybin, LSD, DMT, people may have a connection and meet certain entities, certain archetypes, which Carl Jung has believed come from the collective unconscious, meaning that it is just something that exists deep within our own psyche from ancient times, passed on through DNA or something. And that is why people who have never seen a snake in real life or have never heard of the snake, such as people living in certain isolated tribes, when they ingest substances such as LSD or DMT or mushrooms, they are met with the serpent archetype, even though they have never seen it in real life, which means that it is their psyche pulling out these images from the collective unconscious, right? That kind of proves that all of humanity is connected, and how all of our consciousness is kind of tied to a higher being, right? So the trickster or jester or clown fool archetype comes up in psychedelic experiences, especially when we talk about DMT, which is 5-MeO-dimethyltryptamine extracted from toad venom usually. And that is the most potent psychedelic existing on planet Earth as far as we know. It is one of the ingredients in ayahuasca, right? Also, yeah, when people do these ayahuasca retreats with shamans, usually it's in Bali or something like that, then they also meet that archetype. And that fool, that jester, is usually seen showing us certain gestures, dancing, doing certain tricks, kind of pulling faces, teasing, tricking us, and also encompassing the magician archetype, who is able to transform something into something else, right? Who is able to kind of transmute energies or material. So, what people have noticed is that during these DMT experiences, the mood of these tricksters or jesters may change at any moment, making them go from sad to happy to angry to scary. And that is why a lot of people are scared of them, because they are so sudden, they are so mysterious and hidden and powerful that you never know what is going to arise from them, right? Um, right. Um, Now, the fool presents himself as the bridge between the chaotic world of the unconscious and the ordered world of consciousness, connecting him to the trickster archetype. The Joker connects the everyday world with the imaginary world represented by tarot characters, takes us to the theta state of childlike wonder, imagination, and fantasy, which I just talked about with the pineal gland, third eye. So, why is he considered an alchemist? He's able to bend reality and turn any situation around. He is able to transmute situations. He has more emotional intelligence than anybody else, right? He is the zero, which really shines light on the character. There are no mistakes in numerology. Numerology is believed to be kind of the language of the universe, and tarot is going to encompass that. So the zero makes him adaptive towards any card, meaning that he is able to transform himself and, right, become whatever the situation is, whatever the people around him are, all that stuff. So, damn, what is the connection which the fool archetype, the trickster jester archetype, has to the king? Because in art or history we know that they have been very closely connected. Now, the court jester, right, has often played the role of a spy for the king. He was a privileged character and could easily mingle with any group, hear their conversation, political opinion, gossip, and information, right? Making him so powerful because he had access to every stage, every kind of level of societal hierarchy, which means that he can really become anybody, mold in with anybody, blend in with anybody, collect information from anybody, and use that however he desires, making him a very powerful and actually wise, influential character in those times. There's an Italian saying, to be like the fool in tarot, which means to be welcome everywhere, right? They are loved by everybody, they are welcome everywhere, and they travel everywhere. They're like, they exist outside the matrix, they exist outside any system, any rules, the rules which apply to everyday citizens, even higher up within society, do not apply to the jester. He lives outside of any authoritarian figures, any societal figures, doesn't care. He is beyond that, he is doing his own thing. He may have deep cultural and spiritual insight, and everyone finds his opinion foolish until it is known to be true. This gives the fool some hidden intelligence and power. The archetypal sad, wise fool has been kept alive in drama and art throughout the centuries, having a close connection to the wise old man, sage, or wizard archetype, which is seen as the hermit, as the ninth card of the tarot, right? The name of my YouTube channel over here. So the fool has a similar role to the sage, hermit, wizard archetype, which are all embodied by number 9 in the in numerology and in the tarot. The number 9 being the number of introspection, insight, illumination, kind of going within, seeing within, finding power for yourself, and it is also a somewhat solitary number. But anyways, sometimes the fool is seen wearing a crown, which symbolizes a golden halo, open at the top to receive illumination or enlightenment from above. The fool has been believed to have been touched by the hand of God. Thus, both the king and the fool are believed to be divinely inspired, meaning that they have the same touch of divineness within them, allowing the fool to offer the king criticism or challenging suggestions. The king may enjoy the company of the fool, and they may have been known to always have a close and special connection to the king, right? So the king enjoys the company, the king likes the criticism, and the king understands that the fool has the information and deeper wisdom and insight about the entirety of his his state, his little castle, the country, whatever, and he can really offer the king great information, which is why they have always been closely together, as well as the fool being able to offer him entertainment, wisdom, all of that, right? Right. So he can offer fresh energy as he encompasses a childlike spirit and new ideas. But if we want to have the benefit of his creative vitality, we must also put up with his unconventional behavior. Without the fool's blunt, honest, mocking, yet unique behaviors and observations, views, and opinions, the situation or circumstance may become bland and vulnerable, right? The fool's uniqueness and unique knowledge really stirs the pot, allows ideas to flow, allows for the imagination to work, for acceptance of paths which you wouldn't have walked before, which the fool really encompasses. He is wearing that blindfold, right? He is walking throughout life with a sense of intuition and seeing with the inner eye rather than his physical senses and impressions. So let's see. The king would allow universal permissiveness, such as the Feast of Fools, when ordinary conventions were temporarily suspended. Sport, lust, drunkenness, food, right? that all has been given to the people. It really is the explanation of give them bread and circus and they will not revolt, right? The king would put up these giant feasts with some entertainment, with alcohol and dancers and games, card games, food, and that would keep the people from revolting, and that would prevent anarchy from arising, because people, um, when they are not entertained, when they're not stimulated, when their base needs and desires are not met, right? Like I'm wearing the color red right now, which symbolizes the root chakra. When those root chakra needs are not met, people are more likely to revolt, go into anarchy, go against the king, the government, etc. Which is why these bread and circus type of events, such as I've just mentioned, Fool's Day, feasts, were always seen in history, right? That was an instrument in which the fool has possibly played a role, communicating the needs of the everyday person, the average peasant, to the king. He could communicate to the king when people are starting to get upset with him, or when people are starting to, be suspicious, or even get thoughts of revolution. That's when the fool could run up to the king, be like, hey yo, they plotting on you, create this giant feast, give them a bunch of alcohol for a week straight, completely like drain their thoughts and energy, and then they are not going to revolt, right? So yeah, trust me, I've been around. Nah, I was probably this exact guy in the past reincarnation. Yep. Cheers. All right. So that sort of thing, that sort of bread and circus um, energy is still seen today in the holidays such as Fastnacht, Halloween, April Fool's Day, circuses, parades, rock concerts, places where holiday spirit prevails. Now, the Fool, or King's Jester, is also connected to the theme of sadness and being misunderstood, right? That's something which I sort of understand for myself, just from my own experience. Now, that archetype is always touched with the sadness and loneliness of any figure who stands outside the cozy anonymity embraced and enjoyed by the average man. They stand out from society. They play their own unique role. They embrace their own personality, their authenticity, their maybe even harsh opinions. However, that gives them a spark of authenticity, and that is something which makes you stand out, which kind of separates you from people, right? And I kind of relate to that because I've played that role in many scenarios, from school to the military to certain places with a certain hierarchy, such as jobs. If you play the fool archetype, you kind of let go of your kind of external shell, and this allows people to trust you more. You are not taken all too seriously. You are seen as the fool, but you are also connected to people from the very top, to people from the very bottom. You have an insight into all the little groups, subgroups, conversations, and even though you may not have a deeper connection towards a specific group or friendship, you kind of have the knowledge and information of what is going on. And this really allows you to also embrace the magician archetype and kind of become whatever it is you desire to become, embrace any sort of persona, use your humor to your advantage. The humor takes and plays a large role for that archetype. And yeah, it really allows you to live outside the rules and kind of live by your own rules, when you embrace that foolish nature that has somewhat served me in the past. It comes with drawbacks, but it gives the opportunity to exist in a very interesting position. How long is this video? 25 minutes. All right, I think I've done enough yapping, to be quite honest. I think, yeah, I think I've done enough yapping. Can't even lie. That was a whole lot of talking. Yeah, thanks for being here. I'm glad I could make this video. I will make more videos on the Tarot, and thank you for being here. See ya.